comes more. All those in favour?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Perfect, we'll have that carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Right, we'll move to item 10. Deputy Mayor would like to move. We will have officers come to the table. Deputy Chair would like to second. Yeah. Kia ora Moira and Letitia. Thank you very much. This is very straightforward, but if you just want to go through the details briefly for people to understand. Thank you.
Tēnā koutou and talofa lava.
I'm sorry, Moira, if you just want to pull the microphone a little bit closer to you, the base, yeah, moves close.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So I have a couple of slides up there just to show how the properties are being encroached. So the two sites in Omoi Ave, St Heliers, and Point Chevalier Road, Point Chevalier, are both access ways that have been encroached on by the adjoining landowners. These sites are subject to the Reserves Act and are being progressed under the Surface Property Optimisation Framework. The respective local boards support the disposal of the sites, and the eligible projects have been identified for the proceeds of sale. Public consultation has been undertaken in accordance with the Reserves Act, and we received 2 inquiries from the adjoining owners of the Point Chevalier site, and both adjoining owners are interested in purchasing the site. We received 7 submissions for Omoi Avenue, 4 objections and 3 in support of the proposed revocation. 2 objections were received on the basis that the submitters would like the site retained as an accessway. In response to that, the council group is of the view that the site is being encroached on and forming an accessway is not feasible due to the contours and landslips. The other 2 objections from adjoining owners were from adjoining owners who sought certainty they would have the opportunity to participate in a fair and agreeable process that would enable them to purchase a share of the site. The submitters are aware of our intention to sell the sites to the adjoining owners, but the first step is to revoke the reserved status of the land. We are therefore seeking approval to submit an application to the Minister of Conservation to revoke the reserved status of each site. Happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. And just to the property optimisation, just to be clear for the committee, that's actually where the local boards are in favour, but they also receive the funding because they've actually put these forward. That's correct? Yeah, thank you. Member Ashby.
Kia ora, thank you. Just a quick one, and thanks for the report. As part of the process, do you investigate the origin of the acquisition of the land in the first place? So, and could you just give me some comfort, I guess, that, because I know that no responses were received, and I know it's a small piece of land, so in principle don't have an issue, but just want some comfort that the investigation included looking into how it came into council hands, because there's often an interest of iwi in that part.
Thank you. Through the Chair, we undertake comprehensive due diligence on every property that we look at for any form of potential disposal. That includes, usually the primary thing that we're looking at is to understand how the land's been held and if the council group has any obligations under the Public Works Act to the land. But we also go back to ascertain if it was ever subject to any of the Land Acts or any other pieces of legislation that might still carry relevance today. We also, as part of our consultation process for every piece of property that we're looking at, we engage with mana whenua to understand if there's any issues of cultural significance, because we do understand that while we can look at what the legislative background may have been of a specific property, in respect of Māori land, there's a lot of oral history that's not always picked up by looking at old records. So we do that for every property. We did that for these two properties, and no issues were raised either through the due diligence process or in our engagement with mana whenua.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Member Ashby. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you very much. I notice that the Satalius one is all very happy for the local board and for the landowners. But my question is about point 33 in the report, which is the risk and mitigation. And if you notice that there's a risk that the Minister may not agree, could you just take me through, is there, the process around that? Because you go on to say that you will address any issues, but I'm just wondering, is there a process where we can help? If you need help, or how do I put this in a question?
I think I understand what you're trying to say, Madam Chair.
I want to ask
Madam
a local
Deputy Mayor.
representative,
Yes.
are they able to do that?
Through the Chair, when it gets to the point of going to the Minister of Conservation, so the main part of this is where we work with the Department of Conservation. So we will submit everything we know about the piece of land where we're doing a reserve revocation. We'll submit the rationale that we have for revoking the reserve status. That will be based on the Reserves Act values that may or may not be met with that piece of land. The consultation material and the analysis that we've done working with Council's Land Advisory Services and Parks team, along with this report here and the reports that have gone to the local board and the decisions. There may be questions on that and which they would come back to us on and work through. They would then be the ones who would make the recommendation to the Minister of Conservation. So we would have lots of opportunities if there are questions in addressing those. And we do work with a LINZ accredited agent or a Land Information New Zealand accredited agent in making applications to the Department of Conservation as well.
And my second question, Chair, please, is how long do you think this process will take, noting that this has been approved by current local boards and the clock is ticking?
Through the Chair, thank you for the question. At the moment, we are having or facing an extremely long wait with the Department of Conservation to progress reserve revocations. I think the average amount of time we're waiting at the moment is 18 months. Yes. And so if, to your previous comment, we would welcome any support that anyone in this room would like to provide to central government in that area.
Right, I've got that. And my third question will be to the Mayor. Your Worship, when are you next meeting the Minister of Conservation? Because could you ask them to give a bit of a hurry up to our work, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I've got a resolution on the next item about the writing to the Minister of Conservation, and the Mayor, is also writing to the Minister about the Marine Protection Act, and maybe we could add another letter as well.
These guys coming? Is he coming on the 19th?
I think he is coming on next Tuesday, so that will be helpful. Councillor Darby.
Thanks, team. Point Chev, can't let this one go. I know I've heard of sports grounds, playgrounds, recreation grounds, but this one is brand new to me, and paragraph 11 refers to the acquisition for a pleasure ground. Now, I know this is pre-boomers making decisions. This is a silent generation, and they were quietly going about things that we did not know about. But before we sell a pleasure ground, I really want to know what they were up to and what we've been missing out on.
Is there any offer of a field trip on that?
Not together, please.
Serious question. I want a detailed answer.
Through the Chair, I think it was the enjoyment of nature.
Not naturist.
The
Not
silent
naturist.
generation were not that straightforward, you know. Post-depression, post-war.
Thank you. I'm now lost my place, but there's no other no other questions. Councillor Walker.
Well, I do appreciate that there are some issues with the site, but having said that, is it not conceivable that that with some engineering you can have something that's above ground, steps and the like, so that you can resolve some of the issues? Because I am mindful that, I mean, once we've lost something like this, we're not going to get it back in terms of connectivity in that area.
Through the chair, yes, it is conceivable that with engineering an accessway could be formed. That doesn't mean it's necessarily feasible to do so. I would also note that this strip of land has been encroached on by private landowners since 1928, so there hasn't actually been public benefit.
I mean, my experience in a number of instances is you've got a chicken and egg situation where sometimes landowners deliberately encroach onto an area. They ensure that people can't use it, and later things become rather self-defeating and we end up like this. And there isn't any investment in enhancing it or improving the walkway. So I'm just putting that on the record, and the reason for that, Mr. Chair, is I'm certainly familiar with many walkways, paper roads and the like, in locations that might not have a need now, but in the future, particularly with climate change and locations by the coast, and they may have a call later on. So I just want to put that on the record. I wouldn't want to see this as any form of precedent.
Thank you. And through the chair, can I just note that this is the view from the public of the street entrance to this piece of reserve land. So unless you're one of the adjoining owners, I don't think you would actually know it's there, and that's how it's really not meeting its Reserves Act values, because it's not delivering benefit to the public.
So how do they even get away with closing it off like that?
Through the chair, that's probably a question for regulatory services.
And the reason I'm mentioning this is I could take you to a number of locations where people have done this, sometimes in instances where there isn't an impediment for people to use a given area other than it may have been planted out. So I just want to put that on the record. This is a serious concern across parts of Auckland. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Were you speaking about both instances? Were you speaking about both parcels of land?
Yeah.
Is that your concern?
In general, yes.
Yeah, because if you maybe if you just want to go through, just for everyone, if you haven't looked at the presentation, going to go through all the pictures. But my understanding, because I did ask these questions as well, Councillor Walker, but they all sort of go from nowhere to nowhere.
And
But the Point Chev one, my understanding is there is another access,
There is.
like 2 properties away.
uh,
So
through the chair, and sorry, we should have included an image that you can see it just here. There's the entrance to the wider park just further along. So this one was never formed as a formal accessway, and from the street level, the area hatched in orange is what it looks like. So there's a garage that's been constructed at the rear of it, so you wouldn't actually know, again, it was a reserve.
yeah, so that I was just making clear that there is access about 2 properties away. So it would be unlikely community facilities or anyone would pay to build another walkway 2 properties away. Okay, cool. Are there any other questions? Councillor Lee.
Thank you. In terms of the Omoi St Heliers Reserve, under what's its classification under the Reserves Act? Local purposes or?
Through the chair, we'll just double check our records.
Okay. 7 people submitted on it. 3 people were for the sale, and 4 people or 4 submitters were against. What were the reasons in the submissions for the council selling the reserve?
They wanted to acquire, through the chair, they wanted to acquire the land, and they recognised that it was being utilised for private benefit rather than public benefit.
Given we're meant to represent the public, it would be good to hear a summary anyway of the views. The other one is, why were the 4 people, the majority, opposed to this? A summary, if you like. If they're all different, if they're all the same, in other words, they may be different.
Through the chair, all of the submissions are actually contained in this report. If you scroll a bit further down, they're in the attachments. So the reasons are set out in there. The people who were opposed to felt that it should be formed as an access way, which isn't financially feasible. It would be a great deal of money due to the contours of the land and the fact that there's been landslips through this strip of land. The other 2 who were opposed also want to purchase the land, and they wanted certainty that there would be a fair market process that they could participate in. So essentially they wanted reassurance that we weren't going to sell the land on the open market and that then they would have to remove their various encroachments and they'd lose the benefit of that land. So they wanted the ability to purchase it.
Thank you.
And, sorry, through the chair. Yes, public reserve, and my apologies, that is actually in paragraph 8. Yeah, so the reason for vesting was public reserve.
That's all. There's no other questions? I think she just has a comment. Okay, cool. Thank you both. I think it's fairly clear. Oh, sorry, Councillor Lee, did you have another question? Okay. Right. We have a mover and a seconder already. We have Councillor Ferry who'd like to speak to it.
Kia ora. Just to quickly note, it's good that we're working through tidying up these little parcels of land. And in particular, this is something that I know from earlier terms, local boards were keen that the proceeds be returned to local boards. And so I'm really glad to see that that's happening with this process, that there's a recognition that, you know, these are local bits of land and the opportunity is there to spend the proceeds on local improvements. So really glad that that's happening. I guess the frustration with the delays at the Minister of Conservation end is something that we're just going to have to deal with over time, but it would be good to see that streamlined in some way, and I wonder if that's something that actually, you know, again, is this something where we should have some powers of our own, given, you know, some of the, you know, these are messy little bits of land that go back decades, and there might be some value in seeing if actually we can get some powers to just resolve these kinds of things ourselves without that sign-off. But yeah, mainly just wanted to point out, great to see that the tidy-up's happening, long may it continue, and good that the money is going to local boards. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else like to speak? No? Right. All those in favour? Any opposed? Cool, thank you. Move on to the next one. 11. We have